The following is a fan-based opinion piece. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is owned by Laura Faust, Hasbro Studios, Hasbro Inc., DHX Media, and The Hub. Please support the official release. One thing that happens in this episode that I think is very intriguing is that it seems that Rainbow Dash doesn't really know Pinkie Pie very well, which brings up a question that I think could use some addressing. Were the main five, that is to say the main six minus Twilight, were they friends before Twilight came to town? Well, I think we're about to find out, so let's get cracking. We'll start, appropriately enough, with Pinkie Pie, as I can kinda get her in one shot. Was Pinkie Pie friends with the main six prior to Twilight coming to town? The answer may surprise you. I'm actually gonna have to say no.
I know every pony, and I mean every pony in Ponydom.
I know, but hear me out. Pinkie Pie kinda strikes me as the type who's friends with every pony and thus is friends with no pony. What I mean by this is, even though she's the life of the party, I feel like she didn't have anyone to confide in until the main six were established as a close-knit group of friends. With Pinkie Pie out of the way, let's move on to Best Pony Applejack. We'll start out with Applejack and Rainbow Dash. Were they friends prior to Twilight coming to town? Yeah, they were. Applejack and Rainbow Dash seem to have a friendship based on their athleticism. Even in the pilot, we see that they already have a chemistry. So let's move on to the next pair, Applejack and Rarity. I'm inclined to say that they were not. Though they probably knew one another and were civil to each other, there was no real driving force for them to spend a lot of time together. That is, until Look Before You Sleep, where their friendship with Twilight basically forced them to resolve their differences. Next, we'll talk about Fluttershy and Applejack. And as with Rarity, I have to say that they probably were not friends pre-Twilight. Similar to the situation with Rarity, they probably knew each other, but Fluttershy, being an introvert, probably liked to keep to herself, and Applejack would have respected that. Next, we'll talk about the Lightning Queen herself, Rainbow Dash. So, Rainbow Dash and Rarity. No, they were not friends. They can't possibly have been running in the same circles. I can't even imagine them going to the same social gathering, unless it was a random Pinkie Pie party. Heck, I can't think of a single time, even after they're friends with Twilight, that they spent quality time together. It's not like with Applejack and Rarity, where it's practical versus artistic. Rainbow Dash and Rarity would have been more like parallel lines, very unlikely, if not impossible, to ever really meet. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy. Were they friends? Yeah. It's made pretty clear throughout the show that Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy were childhood friends, and that this friendship persists to this day. And finally, the last pairing, Fluttershy and Rarity. Now, at the beginning of the show, I likely would have said that no, before Twilight came along, they probably weren't friends, as there was very little to suggest that anything would have brought them together. But in Green Isn't Your Color, we learned something very interesting. Rarity and Fluttershy go to the spa every week. Now, if this had happened after Twilight came to town, then the question becomes, where are the rest of the main six? I mean, yeah, Rainbow Dash and Applejack probably would have turned down the invitation, and Pinkie Pie might have a crazy schedule, but I think Twilight really would have liked to go, so why in the hoof isn't she there? The only answer I can think up is that this was a tradition pre-Twilight, and it makes a lot of sense since Rarity probably wouldn't have had that many other friends. And though Fluttershy may have liked to invite Rainbow Dash, I don't think she would have been very keen on the issue. So that's my opinion on the main five's friendship pre-Twilight. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope to see you again.
Applejack!
Oh my god, a pony sleeping normally. Take it in now, folks, because you're never gonna see it again.
What's a griffin?
Really? I mean, I know this is a kids show, and at the time they were trying to be educational, but when the pilot episode used the show don't tell principle and just went,
A manticore!
it makes the line
What's a griffin?
sound really stupid.